Hello and welcome to this edition of Own the Journey, where we are interviewing amazing people from around the country and sharing their wisdom with you. Today we have the special guest of Dr. Hal Higdon from Ozarks Technical College. Dr. Higdon, thanks for being with us. We appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's Ozarks Technical Community College.
Community College, yeah, I apologize. Yeah. Well, on that note, tell us a little bit about OTC, Ozarks Technical Community College, and your experience, how you got involved with your organization. What brought you to Springfield? You've become such an influential person in the community.
Well, 16 years ago, July, I came to Springfield. I was very happy working in the South, enjoyed working at another community college, and then a headhunter called and talked me into applying. So the first time I came to Springfield was the day I interviewed with the Board of Trustees.
Wow.
In May of '06, and then in July of '06 came into town. It was hot just like today.
Yeah. And
we just really fell in love with the city and the school, and it's been a great ride for 16 years.
Well, you have a tremendous track record associated with what you've been able to accomplish, and you and the team, I'm sure, have accomplished at OTC and the impact that it's made. What would you attribute that to? I mean, what's led to so much change and success in the community and the impact of the college over the years?
Well, part of it's been organic. You know, Springfield in 1990 was the largest city in America without a community college. The universities, Drury and Missouri State especially, or then Southwest Missouri State, really did not want a community college. They were afraid of it. The Zenith plant closed. Some other things happened in the city where people were realizing the economy was changing. So the leadership of the community said, we need a community college. So in 1990, the voters voted overwhelmingly to form Ozarks Technical Community College. And when they did, it grew and expanded. So when I got here in year 16, well, the end of the 16th year, starting the 17th year, it was poised for great growth. I tell everybody, I would have to be a horrible leader not to have seen it grow. It would, you know, the community's growing. We live really in the only sector of our state that's growing. St. Louis, Kansas City, the Boot Hill, Columbia's growing a little bit. Southwest Missouri is the economic engine of the state now. So part of it's just the organic, being part of a rising tide. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other thing is the founding trustees, the founding president really put into place a model that was based on performance, and it was less based on the way we've always done it, which is a phrase we all hate.
Yeah. And
so we really were poised to take off, and embracing the needs of the community, particularly the business community, I think has been our key to success.
Oh, that's so good, and I know that the community has benefited from it. When you think about what you've had to navigate through, the organizations that you've chosen or had the opportunity to work with over the years, what has been the key to helping the community in the college know how to work together? I mean, that's not easy.
Well, you know, one of the things that community colleges do as a matter of course is no matter how many programs you have, you always have an advisory committee for that program, whether it's automotive or nursing or dental hygiene or welding. Mm-hmm. You have a group of professionals who are there to keep you up to date, what the latest technology is, what the training needs are. And so OTC from the beginning has had that robust amount of input. Also, our Board of Trustees, our board is very business oriented. It's 6 very strong individuals who are really about serving the community, but also understanding the best way we serve our community is to support the economic development of this area. So we really listen closely. You know, I've been very strategic in the boards and the different areas I've served. Mm-hmm. I've served many years on the Springfield Business Development Corporation. We served on that together. Yeah. The Chamber Board, we serve on that together. Cox Board, Cox Health. Mm-hmm. I'm very committed to that board. I've been on there 14 years. And the Borough Behavioral Board is another board that I'm really passionate about. And all those are consumers of the product that OTC turns out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That alignment and then the impact in the community. And I think you nailed it when you said, you know, Springfield has become the economic center, but it really relies a lot on what comes out of the college and the professionals that you help to create. So one of the crowning jewels right now anyway in the college is the Robert W. Plaster Center for Advanced Manufacturing. Tell us a little bit about that journey, what it means for the community, and what it means for the college.
Well, Rob Rector, our Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services, was talking about today. It's been an 8-year journey.
Wow.
So we're going to open August 15th, but go back 8 years, and we were getting ready to do a new strategic plan. We went out to the community. We went to Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, Chambers of Commerce, city, county, and we talked to the community about what we needed. And what we heard over and over again is we wanted to keep our 18-year-olds and our 28-year-olds and our 38-year-olds from leaving this area and going somewhere else to work. Not everybody needed to get a degree in art history. Mm-hmm. Some people need a degree that can actually make a living.
Right.
And those degrees need to be well-paid, living wage jobs, and they need to support our industry. So we have a large stainless manufacturing. Right. We have IT, we have craft, we have 3M, we have SRC, we have all these different companies. And what we really saw that we needed was a facility that would lean into the advanced manufacturing realm. You know, we live in an economy that is now the biggest hindrance to most companies growing are labor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're having to solve that problem with technology. Well, what do we need to build? We need to build something that can infuse labor with IT and advanced manufacturing and make it so we can produce people that need to be hired, but also are they ready to work in this automated manufacturing environment. So that's 120,000 square feet, wow. $40 million project. It'll be the first of its kind in the Midwest. We went to 8 other states and looked at theirs. The South is way ahead of the Midwest in advanced manufacturing. Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. And we picked their brains, found out what they did by mistake that it wasn't good, and then also what they like. So this is kind of a culmination of that. And the taxpayers in 2018, we went to the taxpayers and said, will you support this vision? If you will support this nickel tax, we will build 3 things: an ag center in Christian County, which we did, a new center in the Republic, the fastest growing part of the community, and the biggest would be the Center for Advanced Manufacturing. They said yes in overwhelming numbers, and so we immediately went about figuring out what we need to do, getting an input. We put together an advisory council that you serve on for the Plaster Center, and as you know, the first thing we brought to you guys, you didn't like. I remember Joe Reynolds saying, it's ugly. And y'all gave us feedback that this needed to be a show place. Not form over function, but it also, I think we all agreed that we need to sell manufacturing as what it really is, which is clean, safe, and cool. Yeah. And this whole building is designed for touring middle school kids and bringing them in and letting them see cool artificial intelligence, robotics, mechatronics. So that advisory council gave us great input, and in just a few weeks we'll see it open up. I'm
so excited, and I think really what you're talking about, not only from a functional perspective, but as a showpiece in Springfield, it becomes a point of pride for the whole community in the region because of what it produces. And I hear consistently in what you're talking about that you're listening first and then executing in what you're doing. And I think there's a lot of leaders that can learn from that in the world that maybe could use that advice.
Even on the political realm.
Maybe a time or two. So when you talk about and think about the target student that I would describe as your target customer profile, talk to us about who that is, where they live, how you get their attention, how do you get them engaged in your organization?
That's a great question, because right now we're in a situation in Missouri where our high school graduation numbers are going down every year till 2026. So every year in Missouri, there's fewer people graduating from high school than the year before. Wow. We're in a crisis in this state. This state is poised to shrink. Now, our part of the state is doing a little better, but even here. So, you know, for a long time we depended on that 18-year-old. Well, the 18-year-olds are becoming fewer and fewer. So what we really have to do is focus on that 35-year-old, male or female, underemployed, Because let's face it, with a 1.9% unemployment rate, if you're unemployed right now, you want to be unemployed.
That's it.
So what we have to realize is our programming has to be such that you can still work full-time and go to school. It's very foolish on the part of universities and colleges to think that they're serving non-traditional older students by only offering things Monday through Friday from 8 to noon, which is what most universities try to do. And they'll say, oh, we have night school. Well, night school doesn't even work. It has to be flexible, broken up into chunks, short term. They can be stacked credentials. So we're going to serve the 18 to 22-year-old. They're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming in greater numbers. Our percentage of high schools have gone up every year, so we're getting those. But what we have to do, and with the new fast track program that the state just renewed, there's no reason a 25-year-old or older without a college degree can't go to OTC and take, whether it's IT or workforce or manufacturing or welding or nursing or whatever, for free.
Wow.
So we've got to get them working on these degrees. And the other thing we've had to change is maybe they are sent by their employer. You know, Joe Smith has 60 employees and 40 of them are welders, and he's got 10 that he can hire and send through our facility, and at the end they can go to work. Well, SRC's been doing that with OTC for 20 years. Jack Stack figured this out 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And
imagine that.
And yeah, Jack's always ahead of the game. But I think everybody's starting to figure that out. Well, we've never had this mechanism of this fast track program. So Tom comes in and goes to work for XYZ company without a degree. He's over 25. And instead of the company writing a check every month to send him to OTC to get a degree in mechatronics, they just send him over, fills out his paperwork, and the state pays for it.
Oh, wow.
We would be crazy not to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
OTC's been the #1 server of students through the fast track program for the first 3 years of its existence, but it was a very cumbersome process. Thanks to Senator Huff and Governor Parson, it is now a grant, not a loan. And starting this fall, you can come do that at any school in the state, not just OTC. So I think in Springfield we have a unique opportunity to do that workforce training and keep up with the states like Tennessee that's already done this, and Texas and Florida. Missouri now is poised to where we can really make a difference, but we've got to get that underemployed 25 to 45-year-old who is tired of making $15 an hour and would really like to make $25 or $30 an hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they can do that in a pretty short term.
Well, I love it because one of our missions is to be able to serve people and make a difference in their life. And I mean, you're talking about generational change, you know, when it's done well. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, is you're literally changing the dynamics of that family's life forever, and empowering them to do new things and experience new things in their life. How does an organization, a small business, engage with OTC or another university in order to take advantage of that program?
Well, you know, with Missouri State, OTC, wherever you're watching from in the state of Missouri, and even if you're in some other states, Tennessee has a really great program. But you know, you just call your local community college, your local university. You know, if you're in Southwest Missouri, you can call 447-2601. That's my number. I will get you in touch with the right person. But this money is there. It's appropriated by the legislature. It's the state of Missouri saying we're going to invest in our people, which means we're going to invest in our companies, which are going to pay back. So call your community college, call your university. It's only designed for high wage, high impact programs that are in short supply. So if you want to get a degree in Elizabethan literature, you can't use this program for that. But if you want to get a degree in nursing, you can. If you want to get a degree in engineering, you can. So University of Missouri has programs that are eligible. Missouri State, OTC. So it's It's a very wisely done program because we don't need to pay for degrees that we don't need or that are not going to pay well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love it all the way around. What would you say to the individual who is struggling to know whether they should go to a community college or a technical school or a 4-year degree? It's something that you've been passionate about, that not everybody should go to a 4-year degree, but some people should. How do you think is best to navigate through that?
Well, the answer to the question is, A, what's your end goal? If my end goal is to become an accountant and I need a 4-year degree for that, then you pick out where you want that 4-year degree to come from. Missouri State University, fantastic program. If you're 18 or younger and you have A+, then you can go to a community college for free for 2 years and do your prereqs, and then transfer to the Missouri State University, which has a very generous transfer program for our graduates. And then you get your 4-year degree, but you only had to pay for 2 years of it.
Nice.
Unless you're really there just to be in the fraternity and sorority and drink a lot, which some of us may have done.
Yeah, maybe a time or two.
If you're serious about your education, start at a community college. Your biggest class is going to be 20 or 25. No GAs. You're taught by faculty who are qualified, not somebody who's a GA. I believe that a community college education is a better education than the first 2 years of a 4-year school. And I didn't go to a community college. I went to a university. But I will say I would have been better off because I was not a good student. I went to a lot of parties and didn't do a lot of studying. My parents would have saved a lot of money had I gone to Calhoun Community College instead of the University of Alabama my first 2 years. So if you want to go to a 4-year school and the social environment is important, do that. But if you want to get, college should be get in as early as possible and get finished as early as possible. A lot of our universities, not the ones here, but a lot of them want you to stay 5 years. They want you to stay long. No, you need to get in and get out and get earning. Because we have a labor shortage in this country that's not going to solve itself overnight. So, if your idea is to be a draftsman, then go to your community college. If your idea is to be a doctor, you can still go to your community college and do your first 2 years because everybody says, well, people look down on me because I went to a community college. If you go to OTC for 2 years, and then you go to the University of Missouri for 2 years, and you graduate with a bachelor's degree from the University of Missouri, you graduated with a bachelor's degree from the University of Missouri.
That's all that matters.
And so I think we have to get over this snob thing, and we need to realize the right education is the best education. There are kids who need to go to Mizzou and be in their sororities and be in their fraternities, but we see a lot of them the second semester. They go to Mizzou, especially boys. They party all fall. They come out with a .002 GPA, and they show up at our place in December with mom and dad pulling them by the ear, and then we rehabilitate them, get them into small classes, and sometimes they go back to Mizzou. A lot of them go to Missouri State or Drury, but too many people decide their college career on what they like. I love art. I want to be an artist. Well, are you willing to live like an artist? Are you willing not to make the money? The old joke at community college level, what do you get with a degree in art history? The ability to say, do you want fries with that? So I think too many kids follow their passion and don't think about the end result. And I think that's one reason we really focus on that pre-entry advising. We call them navigators, who sit down and say, okay, you want to be a welder. It'll take you 20 weeks, and at the end you're going to make $22 an hour. Is that what you want to do? Yes, fine. Okay, well, I want to be a lawyer. Okay, it's going to take you 4 years plus law school. Here's what you're going to borrow. Here's your average salary starting out. And I think it's more of a consumer information. Being an attorney sounds great, but think about what you're going to make, think about what you're going to do, and think about what it's going to cost you.
I love what you're saying. I mean, taking that step back, it's really kind of an analysis of how you want to invest time, money, and energy, and make sure that it's going to pay off for what you want to do in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, in business, if you're going to make an investment in new technology, you're going to look at the payoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that individual, that 18-year-old or whatever age, they're making an investment. Either they, the government, or their parents are making a $100,000 investment, and if your return is $22,000 a year, it's not going to pay off.
No, not at all.
And that's why so many of us see in our, especially our health science programs, people with bachelor's degrees coming back to become nurses, dental hygienists, bless you,
Yeah, sorry.
dental hygienists and everything else, because a dental hygienist will start out at $75,000 a year after
Wow.
a 2-year degree. Well, we just raised starting teacher pay in the state to $38,000. So, you know, it is, and teachers should be paid more, but unfortunately they're not.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I heard that was pretty unique in terms of the community college, though, is you have that personal touch that's going to help somebody to understand what to navigate, even if it's not OTC.
Right.
It's to help them to understand which way that they might want to go.
And one of the things we do with our navigators and our people in the high schools, getting someone to go to OTC is not their job. Getting them to make the right decision about their education is their job.
I love that.
If you come in and you really need to be at Evangel, and Evangel has the program you want, then the best thing we can do is say, it's a block that way. Missouri State has a full-time employee sitting at our front desk. She's there all week long. She's fantastic. And many times we take them by the hand and walk them down and say, you need to visit with her because you need to go directly into this. So, you know, and sometimes it's like, well, you know what? Maybe you need to work a couple years before you try to go to school. Or maybe the military is best for you. So the right advice is better than selfish advice.
Yeah. And
I think our model for 100 years is, you know, the recruiter is the recruiter, and we tried to move that around, because if Tom's comes to me and Tom's really not right to come to community college at this time, and he really needs to be at Mizzou, you're not going to stay.
No.
You're going to come one semester, get dissatisfied, then I've cost you a month, 6 months of your life, cost you money. So my best thing to do is say, Tom, you need to go on to Mizzou, or WashU, or MSU.
Whatever it is.
And I think we have that relationship with our colleges in this state, in this town, where we're able to do that. You know, Drury has a representative that comes on a regular basis. Our campuses are connected. And it's one of the unique things about Springfield is that Drury, Missouri State, OTC, and Evangel work so closely together. And our students turn into their students, and it works well.
It works, yeah. I think it's magic. Springfield is a very special place when it comes to the dynamics of the community, because everyone is very focused on serving the individual and making the right decision for the individual, and not just trying to steal from Peter to pay Paul, because like you said, that ultimately backfires. And I think a lot of business leaders can really learn from that if you always focus on what's best for your customer, i.e. student in your case, and sometimes that costs you the business initially. Long term, you create a better outcome for everybody involved.
We all talk about customer service, and bad customer service lives forever. And so when you go someplace and they tell you, maybe it's buying a washing machine or buying a car or whatever, you know, this is what you want, but let me show you what you need.
Yeah.
And then that's what you really wanted. And so sometimes we don't know what we want.
Yeah, absolutely don't.
And that's a tough one too.
Yeah, I love bad customer service lives forever. That's a hell of a quote. So you mentioned earlier working with some of the senators in Governor Parsons' office and navigating through it. It's never easy to navigate through the budgets, the challenges, the political landscape. What's been the magic sauce for you where you've been able to get all that working? What
we have found is results pay. Our reputation nationwide and in the state is very, very strong. When we went to Senator Blunt and we want to build an airframe and power plant building to service jets at the airport, because the airport has gotten American Airlines in here and they've made a big investment. Senator Blunt said, how much do you need? And he put it in the budget. In fact, this year OTC got the second largest designated appropriation in the country for community college, thanks to Roy Blunt.
Wow.
But that's because Roy trusts us, and we trust Roy. Senator Lincoln Huff, Appropriations Committee, we needed money for the Center for Advanced Manufacturing. I told him I needed $10 million, and he and the governor gave us 12.
Wow.
That doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
And so it's building that trust, because every dime that the state gives us, we try to multiply that through economic development. And that's why Missouri State has gotten 2 or 3 large special appropriations this year, because Cliff Smart has built that same rapport. Part of that is we don't turn over. So OTC is 32 years old. We've had 2 CEOs.
Wow.
Dr. Myers was here for 16 years. I've been here for 16 years. Cliff Smart has been at Missouri State for 12. The average tenure in the country is 7. So every year you stay past that 7, you're building up an opportunity to be known. And so OTC has the 2 longest serving CEOs of higher ed in the state. And we're friends, and we work together. We compete hard, but we work together. But we also go to Jeff City together. And he supports my projects, I support his. So working with the national and state politicians, you got to trust them, and they got to trust you. And we're fortunately in Southwest Missouri have a really strong delegation. The other person that really works really hard on economic development with us is our Representative John Black. He's watching our back in the House, and then Lincoln's watching our back in the Senate. But our whole delegation is great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I hear teamwork. I mean, teamwork makes the dream work, but it's got to pay off. You actually have to produce results, and I'm sure that you've got a whole team that's helping to demonstrate the economic impacts that you've had in the community and in the state.
And the other thing that's important is good data. Colleges and universities are notorious for collecting data but not using it to good resources.
Yeah.
We have Matt Simpson who runs our data, our research, and so when Senator Parson calls, or was Senator, now he's Governor Parson calls, or Senator Huff calls and said, tell me how many kids are going into ag, and tell me, I can tell them in a few minutes. And so having that data to back up what you say, when I say I'm the lowest funded community college in the state, I have the data to prove it. When I say that we do more with less, I have the data to prove it. So data is so important. Absolutely. I don't have to tell you that.
Oh yeah, we live in that world. One of our favorite sayings is that you have to love the truth even when you don't like it.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can get there is by taking a look at the data, know the facts without a doubt.
Well, it goes to failure. When the day I took office, I found an article that I said, we're going to work together, we're going to succeed together. Once in a while, we're going to fail together, but we're going to learn from those failures and do better. And it is really true. You learn more from a failure than you do a success. And I've had some spectacular failures.
We all have.
And my promise to my board is I only do that one once. But when I hire new people, I want them to feel like they have the ability and the freedom to try new things. I have worked for people who, if you tried something that didn't work, it was the end of your career. So guess what? Nobody tried anything.
Yeah.
So I want my people to just try stuff, throw stuff at the wall. Doesn't work, write it down, figure out what didn't work, try it again. But there's no price to the individual for a good attempt fail.
I love that. I think there's a lot of that missing in today's world in the culture of in business as a whole. I mean, one of the things that is shifted, I would say, in the last 5 years is how important culture is to business. You want to bring a group of people together. You're spending so much time together. You want it to turn into magic that accelerates an organization. How has that need for culture shifted in your world? It has to have had an impact.
The culture thing is so different than it was. I started in higher ed in 1991 as an HR director, so my background is HR. And I used to joke that the nature of a good HR director is making them think that the institution cares. Now it is to show them that the institution cares. And the generational, I was born in the 60s, the groups that were born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, they think team. And I'm not sure everybody who was born when I did, maybe the late boomers and Xers probably thought team as much. But I'm incredibly encouraged by the nature of our younger faculty and staff, because they are much more team oriented. So we see that you know, this authoritarian, I'm the chair of my department, everybody does what I say, has evolved into, okay, let's get together and solve this problem. And we have a lot of young people on our executive team in their 30s, which is unusual.
It is unusual.
And they're so unaffected by authority. It just doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
And it takes a little getting used to, and some people can't get used to it. I like it. I like it when they come in and say, you had this idea and it's really bad, but we figured out how to make it better, and the first time I react, it was my idea and it's good, they'll never come back to me with another idea. So I err on saying yes to everything and then letting them learn. I had a boss before who was an old ball coach, and that was his way. He'd give you all the rope and know you're going to fail, but let you, so you learn something. And I don't go quite that much, but you know, everybody comes in with ideas, and I'm pretty much, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't work, you know, let's talk about why it didn't work. And I think there's so much high stakes, especially in corporate America. Failure is just not tolerated sometimes. I mean, what's the biggest failure everybody remembers from the 80s was New Coke.
Yeah.
Well, Coke ended up making money off of that failure because it got so much attention. They brought back classic Coke, and it's just, you know, they learn from their mistakes. So whether you're running a automotive shop or an IT shop or a college or a university, if you can experiment, fail, correct, and succeed, then you're going to go out of business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the concept of saying yes as much as you can, though, to just give people the runway that they need to figure it out. I mean, education and wisdom comes from experience, not because you were told something, for sure.
And once in a while they'll come in and I'll say, well, you know, you're the third person in 20 years to have the same idea exactly like it. Can I tell you why it didn't work? And then you come, you know, sometimes you try to stop them, and sometimes you say it cost that much, and maybe dollars do sometimes speak louder than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think if you start from a place of yes, you start stronger.
I love that. Yeah, good. Well, speaking of dollars and some of the challenges that are coming up, we know that we're entering into some kind of challenging economic times. And you've mentioned that oftentimes during the challenges and situations like that, you know, sometimes community colleges and things do better.
Yeah.
What do you see coming down the pipe?
If we have a traditional recession, OTC will see an influx of students. So there's an inverse relationship with the economy for all of higher ed, but particularly community colleges. When unemployment is low, then we don't see the growth. The recession that came in 08, 9, and 10, we were inundated. I mean, we had companies closing, plants closing. We had an 11-12% increase from fall to spring, which has never happened. Financial aid was working 20 hours a day. We were on the NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt for having classes that started at midnight because we couldn't fit them in the day. Well, right now unemployment's low, so enrollment is a challenge. If a year from now we have unemployment 5 or 6%, I'll probably have 5,000 or 6,000 extra students.
Wow.
That I didn't have room for 10 years ago. We have built capacity. We had the lowest square footage of any community college in the state per FTE by far. So we built a lot of capacity. We built Richwood Valley, we built Table Rock campus, Waynesville, Lebanon, and on this campus as well. And so we're ready. And we've got better infrastructure, we've got better IT, we've got more people. But if the economy turns south unemployment-wise, we will be inundated. The fear is we can have a recession that is low unemployment because there's just not enough people. And so the economy is going down, and I saw an economist talking about why recession is good for us, because recession is a reset to retrain. A lot of the prosperity we had in the last 10 years were built off of retraining done in the last recession, because Americans, like any human, do not make that decision to change careers unless they're forced to often. So a recession will force people out of the turkey processing business into working into a higher wage.
Yeah.
When Willowbrook Foods closed, almost everybody there had no high school diploma. We got them in our GED program, and then we moved them from making $11 an hour into becoming an electrician and welders and dental hygienists. And so time and time again, I meet people who say the best day of my life was actually the worst day of my life. I thought, I worked at Willowbrook Foods for 20 years, now I'm unemployed. 6 months later, I'm making $10 an hour more, but I needed that kick in the butt to do it. So a recession with unemployment is that kick in the butt to retrain. So if we have a recession without unemployment, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
And nobody wants to put anybody out of a job, but the economy, my business background, my bachelor's degree is in business, you got to have that ability to retrain a workforce, and without a huge investment by the federal government in that retraining, then people aren't going to do it, because you can't quit your job.
No.
So I'm a little bit curious to see where we are a year from now.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. How can, whether it's with OTC or other community colleges around the country, how can the small businesses work with and embrace that relationship to maximize it, maybe to prepare for what's coming, knowing that they're going to have to shuffle staff or deal with some challenges there?
Well, every community college has, comprehensive community college really has 4 legs. They have technical education, health sciences, general education designed for transfer onto the 4-year, and then what we call workforce education or short-term training. You need to touch base, whatever your area is, particularly with the technical training and the short-term training, and you need to know that there are federal grants. A lot of small business, and I grew up in a small business, we never thought of calling the local community college. Just wasn't in our mindset.
Yeah.
And we probably should have. And I don't think community colleges always have been as focused on small business. We visited a lot of community colleges around the country that have a BMW, or they have a GE, or they have a Volkswagen, or they have a Amazon, or something that they're working with, and they focus on that one big business. The cool thing about Missouri, Southwest Missouri, is we don't have one dominant business. And I think that's a strength.
It is.
If you have a plant making Toyotas with 6,000 employees, they're going to call the shots. Nobody gets to call the shots. So if you look around our corporate advisory board, you've got a very, very diverse, and so hopefully you have a community college that will be nimble enough to work with that person with 8 employees. And if they don't, call the president and complain. Never be shy.
Never be shy. I love the idea.
And I know you would never call me and complain, but
no. But I tell you, we have a lot of people in our team that have come through OTC, and the relationship is invaluable. And so I know that it's critical for the next wave to go through. But I think that the average small business, as you say, doesn't think about picking up the phone or working through those things. And as we have workforce challenges, this is going to go for the next 10 years. The data is the data. When it comes to that, we know we're going to be fighting it. So we have to get creative. We have to get out of the box, and sometimes hire somebody with less experience or practically no experience, get them in the training programs, and then get them out and back to work. And
that's been the biggest change I've seen. 10 years ago, business would say, we're not hiring anybody unless they already have this much experience, this, and this. And now it's like, are they breathing? And will they show up for work?
Yeah, are they consistent?
And I think that's going to be healthy in the long run. If we can change this model, and I've said this a dozen times in the last couple of weeks, used to, you went to college, got hired, and moved on. Now you're going to get hired, go to college, and stay. And that's the difference in the model.
Yeah.
And I think we've made a permanent change.
I think it's a good thing as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What do you think we're not ready for when you take a step back and you think about you're planning the future of of your programs, your systems, what's going on in the economy, what do you think we're just flat not ready for yet?
Well, I'll speak to Missouri first, then nationally. Yeah. Missouri, I checked the data this morning with Matt Simpson. We're still 47th in funding for higher education. Our sister states around us are outspending us. If we were a southern state, we'd be in last place. And so we're not investing in economic development. And when I say we're not investing in economic development, we're not investing in training. And this goes for the University of Missouri, to Missouri State, to OTC, to whatever. And so the states that are really putting money into that training, whether it be an accountant, an attorney, a nurse, or a doctor, or a welder, are going to outperform us. So Missouri has got to get their act together. Governor Parson and the legislature made a lot of headway this year and next year. But the rubber's going to meet the road the first year that the economy tanks. And Missouri's traditional thing is cut mental health, public health, community colleges, universities, and then everybody else. We can't do that anymore. No. Because it's like if you're running a delivery business, but you're not going to buy gas. You're not going to deliver very many. So our challenge as a state is not to make that bad mistake in either not increasing our investment or decreasing it when we shouldn't. Right. As a nation, we need a coherent workforce policy. We haven't had it in 20 years. Every administration has an idea. They can never get it through the Congress. We just need for the president and the Congress to get on the same page about investing in training that's relevant. But we've got so many constituencies, we don't want you to do this, we don't need to do that. We just need some predictability and reliability.
Consistency.
Business hates non-consistency.
Yes.
So does education. I'm sure. So, every 4 years we get new directives from whoever the president is. What you've been doing for 4 years, you have to do the opposite. And then 4 years later we get another. So we just need a coherent workforce policy. One of the things would be to bring in short-term Pell. Pell grants are only for things that last 16 weeks. I would like for you to call me and say, I need a 4-week program in this, this, and this. And I got 8 guys and girls who need to do it. And I say, well, 6 of them are eligible for a Pell Grant. We can just use their Pell money and do that. Right now, if it's not a credit program, you can't do it, which is very 1970s. That's the mentality. So we need to do that, and then we need to put more emphasis on colleges and universities accessing public dollars for worthless degrees, which our legislature agrees with that. We should not be paying for people to go to college, particularly colleges that are unaccredited. There was a story this morning, there's still huge numbers of unaccredited for-profit colleges that are just taking all this public money through loans and just producing no product. Yeah. We need to get control of that. Unfortunately, they got a very strong lobby.
Yeah, sure.
And who doesn't have a strong lobby is community colleges and universities, because we don't have the money to lobby.
You're putting it in other areas.
Yeah. So I think that the federal government has to get serious about supporting short-term training, and then also saying if you're going to get a federal loan, it needs to apply to a degree that's going to have a living wage. Now that's going to make my friends mad at the liberal arts, because I know it's important to have a degree in philosophy. I have a PhD in philosophy. I'm not getting paid for that. I'm getting paid for my bachelor's degree in business. So I think we got limited dollars. Let's don't waste it on things that don't have a return to either our economy or our society.
Yeah, I love the mindset. Now, so what you said made me think, when we think about bringing a lot more manufacturing back stateside from overseas and leaving the politics aside and all of those dynamics, if we wanted to take the major manufacturing facilities of Apple and Intel and some of those kind of facilities, what I'm hearing you say is we're not ready. We don't have the workforce. We don't even have the system to produce the workforce yet in order to facilitate that.
We have no nationwide coherent policy. We have states that do it well. We have states that do it less well.
Sure.
We're a state that does it less well, let's be honest. But so, if I'm a Tim Cook who's an Auburn graduate, which is my arch enemy. Alabama is mine, but he's an Auburn graduate from Alabama. If he wants to bring that back, he's got to have some assurances that, you know, that the technology. Now, of course, there's other things at work. There's tariffs, there's low wages and that sort of thing. But, you know, we're starting to see more and more movement of bringing things back. But I think that the days of business being on their own are gone. The government of China does everything they can, money-wise, regulation-wise, to help business. And we have this political divide that if you're trying to help business, you're not helping the employee. That's not true.
It's not true.
So if we talk Apple into bringing 6,000 jobs to Sedalia, Missouri.
Yeah.
Then the state of Missouri should say, we're going to give you tax credits, we're going to get you property, and we're going to give you this training. You know, there was a large manufacturer that went into South Carolina, aviation manufacturer, need to hire 2,000 people. Governor of South Carolina said, if you'll do that, we'll take every one of our community colleges, we'll set your facilities up all over that, and we'll have everybody trained by the day you open the factory.
Wow.
So every community college in the state of South Carolina trained for that aviation program, so that 2,000 people were ready the day they turned the key on that aviation program. Missouri is not set up to do that.
No, not at all.
But the southern states are. I was in Alabama when we brought Mercedes in. I was in Mississippi when we brought Toyota and Nissan in. We did that. So the states that can do that are great, but we're 50 states. We don't need to have 50 different models.
Right.
And our federal workforce model through the workforce investment boards are completely broken.
I know all about that.
And Missouri may be the worst in the country because it's completely political, it's disorganized, and some states have taken control of it. But the federal government needs to get real about getting control of workforce investment. We're wasting a ton of money on overhead, and they need to really get control of it.
Yeah.
I'm finished preaching. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's real. I asked the question, so I'm glad you shared.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, share with us one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever received.
The best piece of advice I received was, as an employee, as a citizen, as a church member, as a family member, always be willing to do whatever needs to be done. So when I was working at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, we were putting irrigation into the practice fields for the athletes. And on Saturday morning, the coaches and the campus president and some others were all meeting to dig trenches. And I just showed up. Well, I didn't know it was a big deal, but it was the talk of the college that an administrator, a suit, who didn't even work for that campus, I worked in the central office, showed up to help dig trenches. So my boss, who was later became the president of the college, told me, he said, you know, the smartest thing you did was unintentional, but you showed that you were not too big to dig a trench. So what I always tell our young new employees, our leadership classes, if you're walking across campus and you see a maintenance man struggling to carry something to the next building, it's your job to help him. So I have two pet peeves. One is saying we've always done it that way, and the other one is it's not my job.
Yeah.
It's your job. If you work at an institution, if you work at JMark, if you work at OTC, there is nothing that's not your job.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know about you, but I look for the people that have that attitude.
100%.
In our office, when maintenance was moving some stuff around, I had a couple of young ladies who were in there dragging furniture in their dress clothes. I noticed that, and I filed that away. I had a couple other people in the office who were sitting in their office just chilling. I noticed that and filed that away. One day it will become important when someone is either promoted, retained, or not.
Right.
So no job is too small for you, no matter what your position is with the organization.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. One of our favorite sayings is to say, "It's not my job," is the fastest way to not have a job. And
you said it better than I did.
I think that's real. Well, Hal, thanks for sharing so much.
It's been a pleasure.
I want to raise a glass to you and say congratulations for owning your journey.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.